Carlin Nordstrom, and for the past 9 years, I've been working with Indigenous youth and communities across Canada. In schools, community halls, and remote areas with one clear goal: to help improve lives and create a better future. This podcast is about real stories about resilience and what it takes to overcome adversity and achieve success. Through my work with educators, leaders, and athletes, I've seen what works, what doesn't, and what needs to change. That's what we'll be talking about here. Each episode, we'll be sitting down with people who have taken different paths to success, who face real challenges, and who have something meaningful to pass on to others. This isn't about hype. It's about truth, impact, and believing in what's possible. Welcome to the See and Believe podcast. Hello, everybody. I'm Carlin Nordstrom, and welcome to the first episode of the See and Believe podcast. Before we dive in, I want to give a quick shout out to where we're recording today. We're here at the Studio by Showtime. I'm excited to bring in Showtime himself and talk a little bit about the studio, why it was built, the kind of conversations and creators this space is designed for.
Thank you so much, Carlin, and welcome everybody. I'm proud to welcome you to the Studio by Showtime. This is a space designed for live streamers, podcasters, and content creators who are looking to collaborate and connect with like-minded individuals and just create in a positive and professional environment. We've got some really high-end equipment here, and we are ready to get dialed in for your podcast.
Since this is the first episode, we figured the best place to start is with an introduction. Today's episode is really about who I am, what I do, and what this podcast is all about. Showtime's going to guide the conversation, and starting next episode, we'll bring in our first guest.
All right, Carlin. So first thing, right off the bat here, for people who are just discovering you, how do you usually describe who you are and the work you do? Like beyond titles and labels. So like, who's Carlin Nordstrom? Describe who you are, the work you do. What do people need to know?
Well, I guess importantly, right off the bat, I'm in First Nations motivational speaker. I've been doing this for 9 years now. Started obviously just in Saskatchewan and was able to work my way across Western Canada and even into Ontario this summer. So I've done a whole bunch of stuff over my lifetime, but never thought I would end up where I am now. But happy that I did, and like I said, everything happens for a reason. So basically work with Indigenous youth in a whole bunch of different ways. I do the motivational presentations. I also do have a nonprofit, Kisik Youth Wellness, where we take kids, at-risk youth from Saskatoon and also from First Nations communities and take them up to Canoe Lake for summer wellness camps. And then I also do Pathways to Success with industry, bringing First Nations youth into Saskatoon to show them the different opportunities with the educational institutions and industry. I've been working with SAS Power, Nutrien last year, so that's kind of one of my little babies that I started, and it's growing, and yeah. So between those three things, it keeps me pretty busy, and that's what I do in a nutshell.
Amazing, brother. Amazing. You've been doing this work for quite a long time, like you were saying. Why is it important for you to create this podcast now, and why this format?
It's I need to let people know, and I want to talk with other professionals about how can we improve the lives of Indigenous and First Nations youth. I mean, I see a lot of things out there that a lot of people don't get to see. The conditions, things aren't good, and I want to talk with like-minded people about solutions, how we can work towards making the Indigenous youth's lives better, and also talk with people about their journeys and how they've overcome adversity. Indigenous, I'm going to have a variety of guests, Indigenous and non, uh, to just talk about their stories of overcoming adversity to and achieving success, because these are all important.
Why has working with Indigenous youth become such a big part of your life and work?
Uh, Once you start doing this work, I mean, for me, after my first year of getting it off the ground and and getting a year under my belt, it, I knew that I was going to be doing this for the rest of my life. It's just so rewarding and so needed. Um, and I guess in my line of work, there isn't enough of us, right? I think that these kids, if they could have a motivational speaker come in once a month, and that's why I started the new uh, presentation, Stories of Success, talking about. I mean, let's face it, everybody can't become a professional athlete, right? Um, but we, they can all become electricians, teachers, police officers, doctors, lawyers. So that's why I started the new presentation to show different examples of Indigenous success stories, um, grassroots level, blue collar level, where that's very achievable for them.
I mean, you kind of did touch on it there briefly, but take us back to the beginning, Carling. Like, what first pushed you towards working with Indigenous youth, and like, why did it become so personal for you?
Well, like I said, I never thought that I would end up here. It's funny how it started out. A friend of mine had been kind of pushing me towards doing that, and I wasn't really interested at the time. Um, Fast forward a couple of years, working in the construction industry, kind of getting sick of that, and I'll never forget when it happened. Was I was working in Moose Jaw at a job that I wasn't really happy with, and living in a. I was there part time when I worked, and then I would come home for my days off, living in a basement suite. It was a cloudy, ugly day, and the suicide epidemic was getting big news at the time out of Wapiskat, Ontario. I mean, it was nuts how many kids were committing suicide, and then also it was happening, and it's still happening in Saskatchewan. And it just boom right there. It hit me. I said, I'm going to try and help these kids using my background in sports as a professional athlete. I'm going to do something. And from that point on, I uh, I dove in. You know, I dove right in. Basically, just started with sports and fitness camps in the summertime, and that evolved into hockey schools, which then evolved into some health and wellness workshops, which then evolved into the motivational presentations that spring, and that's how I got started, and the rest is history.
All right, a little bit more about your upbringing. So, what was life like growing up in Warman?
Ah, long time ago. um, it was good. It was really good. I mean, I don't know why and how I got so into hockey, but that was my goal, was to become a hockey player. I wasn't that good, and but I'll what I talk about in my presentation to the kids is about controlling everything that you can control to the maximum of your ability. And I remember lying in bed in Warman one night looking at the ceiling and coming up with a plan. And that was the plan for me. It's because I wasn't that big, I wasn't that good, but I wanted to play US college hockey. So I came up with the plan to control everything that I could control to the maximum of my ability. So being the hardest worker on the team, in practice, off of practice, in games, having the best attitude, having you know, being a team player, right? And all of those things. And when I started doing that, and when anybody starts doing that, you start to get confidence, momentum, and I always had a little voice, and obviously, uh, being one of the only Indigenous kids on the team, faced a lot of racism in the town and playing hockey also. But I always had a little voice kind of telling me in the back of my head to prove people wrong, right? And every time that I had success and I was getting better because of my hard work and positive attitude, it felt so good, right? So then I just kept working harder and harder and it just snowballed. And so, growing up in Warman, really fond memories with hockey, and it was good. I really thought U.S. college hockey was going to be the ultimate thing for me, and I got a funny story about that actually. When I was playing AAA midget, I was pretty average.
So what age is that though?
So that it became really serious for me when I started playing AAA. I made the Blazers, which was I was 17.
Okay. At that
So
point, you were like, "Hey,
well, it's funny where you do something and then you have to prove it. So I've actually never told anybody this, and I just remembered this the other day. So when I was playing AAA midget, I sent a tape of me, which I wasn't good. I really was lucky to be on the team, but I sent a video to the University of Michigan Wolverines, and I mean to Red Berenson was the coach. And I doubt he wouldn't have watched it, right? I mean, I wasn't even on the radar. I wasn't playing junior yet, but I sent it to Michigan. That's how determined I was. And I guess my thought process was, well, if I send this tape, now I got to back it up. And nobody would have ever believed me playing NCAA Division One college at the time. But fast forward, one, two, three, fast forward 4 years, and I was playing for Western Michigan against those Michigan Wolverines and Red Berenson. So that was me believe. That's how much belief I had in myself. Even though I mean nobody else would have believed it, and I wouldn't blame them because I really wasn't that good. But the steps that I took, you know, progressing towards that, looking back, it's hard to believe how I did it, but it all worked out perfectly.
All right. Well, basically, we know that obviously it's not going to be an easy road, the road that you got to go down to become a professional hockey player.
No,
When did things start to really click for you?
like I said, it's funny how it happened. So I wasn't that good. I enjoyed hockey fights. I wasn't scared of it one bit. I never was through my whole career. So my first year of junior, um, I was fighting most of the tough guys in the league. I was a rookie, so I mean, wasn't getting hurt by any means. I was doing pretty good, and I could play. I ended up, that gave me room and space and confidence. And after my first year of junior, I ended up playing basically on the first line towards the end of the season. Um, Fast forward to my second year, um, I got hurt. I had some injury problems, and but I was still, my second year, my fighting got a lot better. I was fighting. I was basically like a heavyweight in the SJHL, and I fought everybody, and I did well. So didn't have a good year. Actually, had a terrible year in Humboldt. But going into my last year, I mean, I worked harder than ever because I knew it was my last chance, right? And I had so much space out there because basically, I was one of the top fighters in the league the year before. So I go into my last year at junior, I'd worked my butt off, and I go back to focusing more on, I was given a chance to play a lot, but I had so much space because guys didn't want to come near me, right? So my coach that year, Brad McEwen, um, put a little centerman who was just an unbelievable playmaker, unbelievable hands, by the name of Dean Roach on my line. And that was probably a month into the season, he started us together. And I think in Humboldt, I might have had, you know, it was well under 10 goals that year. I was, yeah, I was, wasn't a hockey prospect by any means. When I went to LeBret and started playing with Dean, and like I said, it was a progression of I got space. right? And long story short, I scored 44 goals that year. And next thing you know, I was off to Western Michigan. And that's when, I mean, that's when the change happened where I knew I had a potential to become a pro hockey player.
Sorry. So obviously, in any road to a successful hockey career, there's going to be setbacks. You're going to need to have resilience. What almost stopped you from continuing in hockey?
Nothing really ever. There was a lot of. It's a it's a tough grind. Hockey. It's a tough sport, and making it to, AAA midget, then to junior is tough. A lot of players don't make it that far, and then to make it to NCAA Division One, I mean that's another elite level of hockey that very few players make it, and then on to pro, right, and into the, NHL camp. So there was setbacks all the time. You know, my year in Humboldt was not good. Just was everything went wrong. And then I had the good year in LeBret. Well, then when I went to college, um, it was a really high step for me because I wasn't the most skilled player. I knew I could score if given enough ice time and with the right players, but I really had to pay my dues in the first year in college. I had to sit out some games, which just drove me nuts. I it was competitive, but I knew I could. I knew I could be a contributing member of the team, and that off season, I just worked so hard. I came back probably in the best shape of anybody on the team, and I was so determined to prove to the coaches, myself, my teammates that I could play at that level. And it was funny because I mean, yeah, I was pretty average the first year, but when I came in the second year of college, I took charge, and I'll never forget the coach Bill Wilkinson coming up to me because I was like my, you know, competition, competitive pucks in the corner and stuff in practice with my team. I was mowing guys over. I mean, I was determined. I'm taking this spot, and I'll never forget Bill Wilkinson coming up to me and saying, "Nordy," he kind of whispered in my ear as we're lining up doing drills. He goes, "You're going to be a big part of this hockey team this year." And it was, I'll never forget it because it was an example of you get out of the game what you put into it, and it's the same thing I tell the kids. You get out of life what you put into it, right? And I had worked so hard my whole career, especially that summer, especially that fall, and to hear that was just like, man, that's music to my ears, and it was worth it. And I did play a lot that year. I played a regular shift every game and was a contributing member of the team. So it was pretty cool, and then it just went onwards and upwards from there.
So like to finally, break through, like what did it mean to you once you actually finally earned the opportunity to play in US college hockey and eventually play professionally?
It was going by fast, but like I said, when I was wanted to prove people wrong with regards to a whole bunch of different reasons. Not just the racism, just people that didn't think you were good enough. Previous teammates, previous coaches. But when I was starting to do that, like I said, it was you feel so good when you're doing that. People need to realize that when you work hard and you're proving people wrong, it's just such a good feeling. It's just such an addictive feeling that you just keep doing it. You work harder, right? And yeah, that's kind of how that was all playing out. And it was exciting. I mean, you know, college was exciting. It was an opportunity. I was getting better, and then when I I'll never forget my first practice when I was with Fort Wayne. So we I go up, and I still had some classes left, but I basically was going to do those remotely. I was going to go play pro after I graduated, and then after my last year of college, I got the opportunity to go to Fort Wayne. I go to practice, right? I'm in awe. Like this, I'm playing IHL. It's still one step below the NHL now. Lots of ex-NHLers and stuff. So I'm getting undressed, and nobody really even said anything to me. And it was one of the guys' birthdays, and they brought a stripper into the room after practice. And I was like, wow, I'm going to like this pro hockey thing. I mean, that was my introduction to pro hockey, right? Get a stripper in the room after practice. So that was pretty nuts. But, it was awesome for a small town Saskatchewan boy to all of a sudden end up in the International Hockey League playing, with lots of, my first line mate was a first round draft pick of the Chicago Blackhawks, and ex-NHLers played in front of 8, 9, 10, 12,000 fans a game. It was pretty cool. It was pretty awesome. All the hard work had paid off, and I felt like I belonged.
What lessons from hockey still shape how you live and work today?
Oh man, so much. I mean, hockey, I always tell parents, keep your kids into competitive sports. If you can keep them in hockey, even to bantam, it teaches kids so much about hard work, teamwork. A big thing is you win games, you lose games, right? And you you learn to come back after losing. No matter how bad you lose, you all come back the next day and you practice and then you go back again the next game, right? And I think that's such an important thing. You look at my AAA midget team. Um, 90% of those guys went on to successful lives, right? Because of hockey. Go to my junior teams. Same thing. Probably 90% of those guys have had somewhat successful lives because they've learned so much from going through the grind of a hockey season in junior, and then going on to my college team. Wow, 100% of those guys went on to successful lives, right? So sports, competitive sports, especially hockey, teaches kids so much with regards to hard work, teamwork, losing, not giving up, coming back, resilience, adversity, um, you name it, and also physical fitness, right? Because of my hockey career, I've always kept physical fitness as a priority, which is, you know, very, very important for your health. And most of my other teammates that I see that have played, even some AAA midget on, once again, 90% of those guys are in pretty good health and keep themselves in pretty good shape. So that's another really important aspect of it. So there's a lot more too, I'm sure. Oh, I know there is.
So all those lessons learned stuck with you, and you were able to create a successful career as a motivational speaker, working with the youth Indigenous here in Saskatchewan and all over Western Canada. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, and even going into motivational speaking, that's some people's worst fear, right? I wasn't scared one bit, but I was talking to a buddy the other day about my pro hockey career, and I was a heavyweight fighter in the IHL and AHL, so I would be out fighting the toughest guys in the league in front of 12, 15,000 fans a game, first game of the shift. I mean, that's throwing yourself out there. I mean, you could get knocked out and flattened and uh, hurt, embarrassed. So, I think I had 66 pro fights counting preseason and whatnot. So that's a lot in 4 years. But once you do that, what are you going to be scared of after? That as far as, some of the stuff that it taught me in general of fear, which keeps a lot of people back from chasing their dreams and stuff. And
So after hockey, you could have gone in many directions.
yeah,
But why this path?
well, I did do a lot of different directions, right? I mean, I don't know. I could count on two hands probably the amount of different careers I've had, which is good, and I've learned from all of them. Um, how I ended up where I am now, just by chance, I guess. It happened, but like I said, I'm a firm believer of everything happens for a reason, and I definitely think that this career did for me, and it's been it's been great.
To me, it just seems like you're living your life's purpose, and like, you're just going with the flow of what your talents are, and the things you've picked up in life along the way, all the lessons you've learned,
Yeah,
and you're just passing them along, paying it forward.
yeah, it is. It's funny. As I when I started, obviously my first doing my first motivational talk, nervous, reading from the paper. Eventually, that all went, and I'm doing it all by memory, just off the cuff now, right? Um, but it is just so the kids need it so bad. I've gotten good at it. I've talked about all the important things that they need to help them have a successful life. With regards to my 6 steps to success, and it works. And the reason I know it works is because when I say to the kids after the presentation, I bring some cards that some of my different friends sponsor me. Fun Motor Group just sponsored this last batch of 1,000 cards. So when I say to the kids after, if you want one of these signed, come up and I'll sign it for you. And every single presentation, every single kid in that gym comes up for an autograph. So I know that it's I'm making an impact. They like the story. They need role models, right? And and that's one of the reasons that I've done the new stories of success is to show not just my story, but other stories that this is achievable for you kids. Look at I talk about 8 to 10 other examples of Indigenous people that are just like them, First Nations people that come from the reserve and went through all the poverty, the racism, the hardship, and they made it. So if you show them that, they know it's doable.
Well, you know what they say, Carlin, how the saying goes, if the shoe fits, wear it, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think this was lucky or by chance or anything like that. I think this was meant to be. And the way you work with these kids, man, like I've seen you up close and personal. I've seen you
Yeah.
in videos and things like that. But the way, you work with these kids and you give them these opportunities to be able to, just learn these life skills like the hunting, the fishing, any of the other things that you guys, teach the kids.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal because a lot of these kids, it's their first time out, and you're giving them that life experience right there, which they never would have otherwise been given.
And they'll never forget. Everybody remembers their first fish, right? So switching gears to working with the kids in the outdoors and at the lake, it's very rewarding to see the transformation in these kids um, when they get to the outdoors and they spend some time at a beautiful lake like we take them to, and they're catching fish, and like I've said, I'll get a when I the kid comes in, I'll get a list a mile long of for most of these kids of don't let them miss their medication, because of different problems. They're suicidal, can't get along with others, don't do well with uh, listening. Well, that all goes out the window once they once they come up to camp. I've had zero problem with a kid up at that camp in however many years we've been doing it, 9 years now. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Well, you've definitely got a lot of people out there looking up to you and what you're doing and the influence that you're putting out there into the community with these kids. So once again, man, you just got to be proud of that. You've shared a lot about your personal journey and how you arrived at this work. So I just wanted to shift gears again for a quick moment, because you've actually spent a lot of time in places most Canadians actually never see. So through your motivational presentations, you've been inside First Nations communities, schools, gyms, and different community spaces. So, what are some of the things that you see and learn that the general public will likely never see or fully understand?
Yeah. So I get to see, like I previously mentioned, things that a lot of people don't, and a lot of people probably wouldn't want to see. Um, you know, some of these schools are in such bad disarray and shape. It's disgraceful that these kids have to go to some of these schools. They're so outdated, so worn out. I mean, you'd never see a school like that in Saskatoon.
Give me an example, like what's something that you would
Well, I don't
see.
want to name uh, um, the specific schools, but old and I'm just going to say this: old and worn out. And I mean, you would not want your kid going to these schools, but this is what our kids have to go to. They, for a whole bunch of reasons that I don't want to get into as far as them not having the new school, but those schools are in terrible shape. The kids' confidence, because of life at home and what's going on at home for most of them, they come in, they're not well. They are not well. Um, they are lacking confidence. They're lacking a whole bunch of stuff. So it's sad when I go, but it also is more reason for me to go and do a good job, right? And it always works out where things are better by the end of the presentation, and they're talking and they got questions and stuff. But the First Nations communities youth are not in good shape in this country, in Saskatchewan, Alberta, BC. And interesting thing, it doesn't really change much when it doesn't change at all. Every community that I've gone to is the kids are not in good shape in general, mental health wise. Whether it be BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, it's the same across the board.
Give me an example, like so the food. I mean, a lot of these kids don't have food.
Well, they actually, the good thing is because they don't have good food at home, when they come to school, there's a food program. So they feed them in the mornings and they feed them at lunch because they know it's needed. But, you know, on that note, you look at major incidents in Saskatchewan. Every 2 weeks, there's a major incident on a Saskatchewan First Nation, either a death, a high-speed chase, someone's shooting a gun, someone's abducted somebody, a major drug bust. It happens so much in Saskatchewan that people just are numb to it. Oh, there it is again. But it's happening every 2 weeks. It's not getting better. The conditions on First Nations communities are not getting better. They're getting worse, and the reason they're getting worse is lots of it is drugs. Methamphetamine is cheap, and it's infiltrated a lot of communities now for the last few years, where there's been just the death and despair on a lot of these communities is unreal. Some of the amount of deaths that they're having from suicides, drug overdoses, and you can't not have the kids affected when that's going on in your community. So it's not good. And I think now that I've been doing this for a few years, this is a good time to start getting it out there that we got big problems in our communities in Canada. First Nations communities are not doing well, and the system, obviously, I mean, it, talking to some friends about this the other day, they were right. They said it took 100 years to screw this up, and it's going to take another 100 years to make it right. But we need to blow it up and start again, and that's not easy to do. But the current system is not working. That's pretty obvious.
So in saying that, that's pretty much the takeaway here. I mean, after seeing all of this, everything that goes down and happens in these communities, what keeps you hopeful?
Well, working with the kids, that's why. The kids still have a chance. You can still, if I can motivate out of 100 kids, 5 that go home and say, you know what, I'm going to start doing this, having a better attitude, working hard. I've seen through Carlin's presentation that, maybe I don't want to be a pro hockey player or a pro athlete, but look at that. He showed me that person who became a lawyer, or that other person who became an electrician, and now I can do it. And I there's you can help the kids still, and that's the purpose of it. I mean, that's a lot of the other situations. You know, the wheels on those buses are already turning. They're going to be pretty hard to stop. But I believe that I believe and I know that we have to try and help the kids.
Well, you've done a really good job with that so far. You're definitely a leader, and you set the bar. So, basically, as a final thought here, Carlin, what do you want people to take away from this podcast?
Um, well, the focus of the podcast is Indigenous people, non-Indigenous people that work with Indigenous youth are going to be involved, and talking about solutions and the way we can help make these kids' lives better. And having, like I said, with my stories of success, I'm using other Indigenous people's stories. So I want to bring them in and talk about how they did it, right? So the Indigenous youth can dial in and watch, and they'll see and get to see the people that I've had in the stories of success here to talk about their stories of success, right? And give messages to the kids of how they can do it, why they should do it, etc. And have some athletes in talking about hockey's a big part of my background, and talking to and a lot of First Nations are really big on hockey. I'll have some my old teammates and other people I know talking about what it takes to make it. So really, really looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you definitely heard it here first. Carlin Nordstrom, wanting to connect with like-minded people, positive, uplifting, inspirational, motivational types. If that's you, hey, give him a shout. Maybe he'll answer your message on Facebook, and you guys can connect. And we'll see you here at the studio by Showtime. Hopefully, we'll see you guys for the next show number 2 coming in hopefully a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, thanks, and very excited to get this done, and looking forward to a lot of successful talks, and it's going to be exciting.
I can't wait. Thank you so much, Carlin.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Yes.